Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Against the Ropes podcast. I'm Gio Garcia. I'm alongside Christian Mosqueda, back at it once again. End of the year awards, Chris. Last and final round.
It's the final round, man. This is it, man. The final show of the calendar year, man. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for us to share with you guys, our thoughts, our opinions, share your guys' thoughts and your opinions of who deserves these awards, these coveted awards.
Yeah, and let's get right to it, Chris. We're gonna start off hot. We're gonna start off with fireworks. We're not gonna waste any time, like some of our candidates, right? We're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna go ahead and start with knockout of the year, man. Knockout of the year. Chris and I, as a tradition, we never really share our candidates or picks. We like to come straight to it. Pause. We like to come out strong. We don't know who we're picking, so we don't influence each other. I know I did post some polls on YouTube, on Instagram, and I'll read those after we give our picks, perhaps. And it's going to be basically, like I said, we haven't decided. So how we decide is going to be a combination of my vote, Chris's vote, and then you guys, the supporters, you guys, the boxing fans, you guys will have another vote. It would just be like a judge's card, right, Chris?
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and begin with some candidates. As you see, Derek, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that super chat, Derek. Derek the GOAT coming through. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate you. Shout out to you and everyone on the East Coast. It's about 9 p.m. over there. I suppose you guys are freezing. We're at a cool, 65 degrees over here, Chris?
Like 56, 65, yeah.
As you see, we're no sweaters, right? No sweaters necessary. But yeah, he says bomb squad right off the rip. He said cold as balls. He says bomb squad. As you see the image there on your screen, he was one of the guys to consider to me in this category. As you guys see other images there, Tank Davis against Rolly Romero. You see there the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder against Robert Helenius. You see, of course, Caleb Plant, Anthony Durrell, and Lee Wood, and Mike Conlon. I mean, very good KOs. Those are kind of like the big profile ones, Chris. Not sure if you want to begin or you want me to begin when it comes to our picks.
I think I'll start so nobody can say that I got influenced by you.
There you go.
The ones that you just mentioned, I think those are the more mainstream ones, the ones that really caught the eye of the public. Of course, there were so many knockouts in all parts of the world, but I feel like these were the four that most caught our attention, most people would pick. And man, I'm gonna go out and say it, man. I'm gonna say, even though I think it was a hell of a knockout by Deontay Wilder, I'm gonna have to go with the UK's Lee Wood. I thought it was a spectacular knockout. Him getting knocked down in the early rounds and coming back to, put Michael Conlon through the ropes. And I think that one was my pick for the knockout of the year.
And look, I'm going to give you a round of applause, Chris. I'm going to give you a round of applause because I think that pick makes a lot of sense. As you see, Derek agrees there with you and with me. That was my pick as well, honestly. And I'm coming out swinging. I don't care. It's the last show of the year. I'm coming out swinging. This is my KO and my fight of the year.
Damn.
Lee Wood, Michael Conlon. This fight happened March 12th, 2022. Wood was knocked down at the end of the first, outclassed for the majority of the fight. He was able to knock down Conlon, kind of a slip, kind of a knockdown there at the end of the 11th. And then he produced one of the most dramatic KOs that I can remember. Landed a big right hand to Conlon's head. Conlon was out cold on his feet.
Yeah.
Fell out of the ropes, fell through the ropes, out the ring. And it was a tremendous comeback by Lee Wood in front of his home crowd. 12th round stoppage. Conlon was up on every single card, and Lee Wood was able to retain his title. So I agree, 100%. KO the year to me seems like to you and to our boy Derek as well. So not sure that many people are going to argue against that. Of course, like we said, Deontay had a tremendous one in his comeback fight. Caleb Plant, out of all people, had a tremendous KO against Anthony Durrell. Of course, Tank stopped there, Rolly Romero. But I mean, in terms of the big drama show, right, that we like to see in boxing, I think Lee Wood delivered there in the 12th round against Conlon.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Of course, all the other ones were big and they were massive in their own right. As we saw, the one that made the rounds was the Caleb Plant against Durrell. You know, that left to the body, then he came back upstairs. But I feel like each one of those other fights has a little asterisk to it. You know, I think this one is one like that you said. Lee Wood was losing. He was getting outclassed. He got dropped. You know, he could have been easily knocked out in that first round, and we would never talk about him in a sense. You know, all the accolades would have probably gone to Michael Conlon, but he was able to dig deep, get back in the fight, and as you said, deliver the knockout of the year in our opinion. And man, again, what a fight! Fight of the year in your opinion?
Fight of the year straight up to me. I don't know if you want to go straight into yours, but I'm coming out swinging, Chris. I'm coming out swinging.
You're coming out swinging, man. That one was in my top two, and I think we'll save it and we'll have a little conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, again, knockout of the year. You and me had decided. I don't think we have to wait for the third the audience vote. I'm
gonna check it out though. I'm gonna check it out. So buy me some time here while I pull it up. But yeah, I mean, look, again, Chris, I don't know how. I have not seen too many knockouts where the guy's out on his feet. Conlon was out on his feet, and as you guys see, he went through the ropes, and it was just tremendous.
Yeah, he wasn't able to defend himself. His hands were down. He was out before he hit. Again, like you said, he went through it. Yeah, again, it's
12 round. 12 round down in the fight.
Yeah. You saw the skill discrepancy in the beginning of the fight, but it's a 12-round fight, and you just saw Lee Wood wanted it more. It must have been the fans right there in his hometown. It must have been the energy or his resilience and him not wanting to get, outclassed, outmatched. And, man, again, knockout of the year. He had, and like you said, Joe, he was losing all those rounds. He needed a knockout in a sense to win. So he delivered.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Conlon, man. That was a tremendous fight for him. He would have won if it wasn't for that KO. But here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the votes of our followers on Against the Ropes. I know Derek mentioned close second to him was obviously Caleb Plant. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the results here. Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see it.
Who do we got?
Bear with me here. So you guys see it there on your screen. And let me go ahead and scroll down for you guys. So what was your KO 2022? Says the question. Of course, the candidates, the ones we spoke about, Wood versus Conlon, Davis against Romero, Wilder against Hellenius, Plant versus Durrell. Actually, our pick, Chris, got second place with 26% of the votes.
Majority rules. But again, I see how they would pick Plant versus Durrell because, again, it was a very beautiful knockout.
60% Plant versus Durrell.
Yeah, and of course, we all know we saw the highlights that post knockout celebration. Probably would have. I think that's why we pushed him over in our voting poll. But yeah, again, that was a great knockout. I just can't put it in my top because, as we know, Durrell's a little past his prime. So that's what knocks me off. Giving that one knockout of the year.
Yeah, 100%. Once again, thanks a lot to Derek, our boy Derek from the PA, coming through with the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you for joining us. And he agrees with you 100%. He says, Chris. So, yeah, maybe a higher profile. You can say Caleb Plant than Lee Wood, but yeah, I think 100%. Like we said, big drama show. Lee Wood got the job done in that 12th round. Insane KO, man. To me, I even considered Wilder, of course. That was a tremendous one. Of course, you had to consider Caleb Plant. But
Yeah.
I went through and watched the knockouts again, and it's just like, man, you see the Lee Wood, the highlights, the KO, him going down. I think everything added more
Yeah.
drama to that moment, so it was difficult not to pick that one.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, when you think of Tank, when you think of Wilder, you kind of know these knockouts are coming. It's the ones that you don't see, the ones that surprise you, the ones that stay in your mind that get the nod. Obviously, we think of 2010. It just so happens 210 is this episode, but 2010, the knockout of the year was, I believe, Maravilla Martinez, and it was those moments that you don't expect a knockout, and it happens. And I think who you're fighting, what you're fighting for, the enormity of that event made it the knockout of the year.
Yeah, and I think we're all kind of on the same page, right? We're gonna remember this one for a long, long time. Anytime you say Lee Wood, you see Lee Wood fight, you're gonna remember about that knockout. And anytime you see Conlon too, unfortunately for him, you're gonna remember that KO. So that's our 2022 KO of the year for us. Our pick was Lee Wood, 12th round KO over Mickey Conlon, man.
Yeah. And, somebody that didn't like that knockout was probably Bernard Hopkins. Probably, it made him go back in time a little bit.
Yeah. And look, Derek says Wilder does stuff like that, so it's not that crazy to me. Yeah, it kind of plays against his favor, right? We're used to Wilder knocking people out. But yeah, 100%. Like we said, Lee Wood was coming in at 25-2 against Conlon. Conlon was undefeated, 16-0. Lee Wood was fighting in front of his hometown crowd of Nottingham, UK, retain his WBA regular featherweight belt. So, yeah, shout out to him. I do also want to shout out this one that probably doesn't get much love, but it was a demolition. Arthur Beterbiev against Joe Smith Jr. I mean, he knocked him down like 4 or 5 times, ran him over, and stopped him early in the fight. So I think that one deserves some credit as well. Let's not forget about, those great KOs this year.
Yeah. Like you said, there's a bunch of great knockouts out there. Shout out to everybody, that puts in the work and that they don't get that platform, that recognition, man. It's amazing, man. That's why people love boxing, for those knockouts. And that's what keeps people coming back.
1,000%. So there you go. Our pick for 22 knockout of the year. Lee Wood. Shout out to Lee Wood. I know you're watching, mate.
Looks like your AtR trophy
Yes,
in the
sir.
coming year once we run into you.
Very prestigious award. All right. We can go ahead and move on, Chris. We spent about 15 minutes on that one, deservingly so. And I'll let you pick the next category. I kind of gave my fight of the year, but if you want to hold off on that one, we can move on to maybe trainer or another one.
Yeah, let's do trainer of the year. Now this is the person that gets recognized for their intellect. Obviously they're not in there trading blows. It's their fighter, it's their man, it's their woman in there trading blows, but they're the ones that are passing on the knowledge. And again, they don't always get the credit. The credit goes to the fighter. The credit goes to sometimes the team. But I think it's time we recognize the trainer of the year. And I'm gonna come off and say, man, my trainer of the year, who's been in the game but doesn't always get the recognition we usually get other names. So I'm gonna say Derek James. Derek James, for what he's done with the Charlos, and what he's done with Errol Spence Jr. For me, he is the trainer of the year.
Look, so I can go ahead and show you guys the results for the poll, and you'll probably see my vote because it'll be highlighted on there. But yeah, I think some trainers of course, that you always have to mention. Anatoly is always going to be there, right? Anatoly Lomachenko with Usyk, with Usyk defeating Anthony Joshua. Lomachenko earning a victory in his comeback fight after that hiatus during the Ukraine war. Of course, he's always going to be a candidate. You guys see the candidates that I wrote on there. Anatoly, who received 20% of the votes. Shingo Inoue, who's the father and trainer of Naoya Inoue, 10% of the votes. He's got to get some recognition. His son is now the undisputed champion at 118. Of course, Gennady Mashyanov, trainer of Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri had a tremendous year, and they had the right game plan against Canelo and, of course, Sudo Ramirez. So he has to get some credit as well. 18% of the votes, and like 35% of the people agreed that it is Derek James. Derek James led Errol Spence in his comeback fight, quote unquote. The accident, the injuries. He made a quote unquote comeback against Yordenis Ugas, unified another title at 147. And of course, Charlo, small Charlo, became undisputed at 154 by stopping Brian Castaño. So you guys see my vote there on the screen. I've had to vote for Derek James. Tremendous trainer. I think he's not just the guy who's going to tell you, you got to do better. You got to throw more punches, right? He actually gives his guys a game plan. And I think he's big part of the success of the guys who mentioned, Charlo, Errol Spence, and other guys who are also coming up. So I agree 100%, Derek James.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Julio, all these names that you just mentioned, they deserve recognition. As you see the poll, it's pretty close. There's not really one guy taking 60% of the vote. They're pretty close. And it just shows that people respect and appreciate the knowledge, the experience that, in a way I mentioned about Lomachenko, that their parents, that the fathers, that their trainers bring these fighters. And I'm sure these guys, trainer, Lomachenko, I feel like they're still not done. I feel like next year is going to be very competitive, and it's going to be up in the air for trainer of the year for next year. I think it's that these trainers deserve more recognition, and I feel like they'll be getting it shortly.
Derek also trains Martin, he says. Yeah, Martin had a big victory, right? I don't want to butcher the names, but yeah, he also had another big victory this year. Yep, Derek James, 2022 Trainer of the Year, voted by us, the panel of Against the Ropes, and also the supporters, Chris. So we all got it right. Unanimous decision.
UD for Derek James.
And here you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Trainer of the Year, Derek James. So we got some options here, Chris. We've gone through the KO of the year. We decided our pick was Lee Wood against Mickey Conlan. Trainer of the Year, Derek James. I'll let you pick the next one. We still got Fight of the Year, Fighter of the Year. And I know we got some other quote-unquote subcategories, Disappointment of the Year, and all these other ones, all the fun ones that we like to do.
I say we get into Fight of the Year. I know you kind of gave your pick a little bit there. Let's get the other two verdicts. And Fight of the Year, do you want to mention some of the fight candidates that you put up on our poll, Gio?
100%. So for Fight of the Year, of course, I think this is one of the ones where legacies are built, right? These are the ones that people remember. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was last year or the one before that. You guys remember Jose Chon Cepeda had that big one against Ivan Baranchik. So memorable fights. Here you have it. Here's your poll. I already told you my vote, and you guys can see it there highlighted. 2022 Fight of the Year candidates: Wood versus Conlan, Taylor against Serrano, Fundora against Lubin, Estrada versus Gonzalez, number 3, and 15% voted other. So, Chris, I don't know if you can see it right there in front of you, but I'll go ahead and read it out either way for the people who are just listening and not watching. 10% voted. And here, let me put it up for you guys as well. Let me not do you guys like that. All right, there you have it. Now you see it. 20% voted for Wood versus Conlan, surprisingly. I was shocked by this, so I'm not feeling too well about my pick. Not anymore. Taylor versus Serrano, 30%. Fundora versus Lubin, which I think was another amazing fight, only 5%. And 40% of the listeners, maybe recency bias, this fight was very recent. This month, Estrada versus Gonzalez, number 3. 40% of the votes.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think we're going to have a split, and we're going to have to find a way to figure this one out. I picked, and it was a very close 1-2 in my opinion.
All right, so let's give me your top three, starting with three.
Top three. Top three, starting with three. Number three, and it's not on here. It's not on there. But I'll give you my top.
Okay.
My third was Charlo versus Castaño. I thought it was a very competitive fight up until the knockout.
Underrated fight. Underrated
rematch.
Fight.
Very competitive. Both men landing hard shots throughout the fight, eye-catching shots. So for me, that one was number three. Number two, drum roll, because these two, for me, they were very, very, very close.
All right, let's hear it.
So number two was Colin versus Wood.
Oh, okay.
And number one,
I think we're gonna have a debate here. I think we're gonna have a lot to debate about. But let's hear it. Number three, Charlo Castaño. Your number two, Lee Wood, Mickey Conlon, and number one is
and it's on here, Taylor versus Serrano.
Okay.
To me, that one just had the technique involved, and it was a mega fight on the biggest stage, MSG, and both women delivered. Very controversial, very close fight. But to me, they just delivered. Taylor versus Serrano for me was the fight of the year.
All right, so we're a little split here. My pick was Wood Lee. Your pick was Serrano Taylor, and the people voted Chocolatito against Gallo, number three. Good thing we do have another poll, however. All right, on Instagram, I just posted it today. I have no idea how people are voting. All right,
nice.
So this is going to be my first time seeing this. So for KO of the year, 50% of the people voted Wood versus Conlon. So they were with us. And Plant Darrell got second place, right? And I think we all agree with that. 33%, not too far behind, right? So they're with us here. They're with us. I'm just looking at what they think is a fighter of the year right now. Ooh, interesting. All right. Fight of the year, and I'm just going to go ahead and read out the votes. 20% say Estrada versus Gonzalez 3. 40% say Wood versus Conlon. And 0% say Fundora against Lubin. Wow. That leaves 40%, I'm sorry, for Taylor Serrano. Chris, they're not helping us out. They're split. 40% Wood Conlon, 40% Serrano versus Taylor. So
I guess we have to go with the co-fights of the year then. Michael Conlon with 2 votes, and then Serrano.
So let's do this. If this is a debate, you have to convince me and the people who voted for Wood Conlon why Serrano versus Taylor was a better fight. Don't let the people down, Chris.
Like I said, these 2 fights were to me neck and neck, 1 and 2. To me, the what this fight represented for women, and how, to me, in my opinion, it did not fall short. We always get these big mega fights, and we always get the 1 and 2 in their prime, and sometimes it just doesn't deliver. And this one had a chance to not deliver. This one had the chance to fall flat in a sense, and it didn't. Both women came in great shape. Both women gave it their all. Very close match. One didn't walk over the other. Both had eye-catching shots. Again, it just had it all. And of course, I have to give respect to Conlon versus Wood, because this was also with the title on the line. Both guys not even playing defense, which is something people love, because they're just giving all offense. And again, it was very, very close, but I think for me, it just came down to the gravity of what it meant in terms of the event.
All right. And on the flip side, if I had to debate and convince you guys that Wood Conlon was a better fight, I would say 3 knockdowns, 12th round comeback stoppage by Lee Wood against a guy who you can say was a better boxer than him, right? The guy was about to take his belt in front of his home crowd. He was knocked down in the first, hurt several times during that fight. And at the end of the day, delivered a memorable knockout to retain his belt. A brutal KO in front of his home crowd. And to me, just a very memorable fight. But look, let's do this, right? We're disregarding Estrada Gonzalez, right? That's what the YouTube audience voted for.
Yeah.
It's between two. So, look, our guy Lee Wood won KO of the year. So, I'm not mad at giving it to Taylor Serrano, like you said. One of the biggest women's fight of all time. I think it deserves to get some shine. So, I'm not mad at us agreeing that that's the fight of the year.
Hey, we're gonna go with that, man. I like that. One goes to Wood.
You already got one, Lee Wood.
We gotta let the ladies shine, and like I said, there's a lot of debate when it comes to women. They get a lot of heat, and this was one of those fights where their stock could have gone down because this is the biggest fight that they can deliver, and this was either going to put off a lot of people away from boxing or into women's boxing, and I think it did it justice. So I agree with you, Gio. Fight of the year, rightfully deserved, very close. It could have gone either way, but your boy Wood got that knockout. Let's give the women the fight of the year.
There you have it. And look, I'm going to use Derek's argument in this one, right? It's very difficult to perform, like you said, when it's a fight of this magnitude. Lee Wood, Colin didn't have as much pressure. You know, there was all the pressure was on these ladies to perform. And Derek said, I see Wilder do this every single time, right? Almost. This guy gets knockouts left and right. We kind of got accustomed to the big name fights letting us down, the big events letting us down. This wasn't the case between these two ladies, MSG. It was a massive event and even controversial, right? Even controversial. So, yeah, I think it had all the ingredients to be the fight of the year for 2022.
Hey.
There you go.
Let's go.
Shout out to the ladies. Shout out to the ladies. All right, so KO of the year, Lee Wood versus Conlon. Trainer of the year, Derek James, right? Notable fighters, of course, Charlo and Spence Jr. Our fight of the year, we agreed on Taylor Serrano. Shout out to Jake as well, MVP Promotions, for putting that together. I hope we put that together. So look, we still got fighter of the year, and we got all the other subcategories. So which one you want, Chris? You want to go for the one, or you want to go for the fun ones?
Let's go for the one, man. Let's go with fighter of the year, man.
Ooh, all right.
Man, there's a lot of contenders, man. There's a lot of names. This one's gonna be tough. I feel like I have a sense of who you're gonna pick, but I've been wrong. I've been shot before. I've been hitting the gun in the 11th round, so you might surprise me. But fight of the year, man. To me, there's names that come out like in the way. We got names like Beef Bull, and we got guys like Bam Rodriguez, the heavyweight champion of the world, Usyk, and they've all had big wins. And I don't know if you want to go down those names, Gio, or do you want to just come out swinging and give me your verdict?
Yeah, so we can give a little bit of a backstory on each guy, and then we can show you guys the polls to see what the people are voting for, and then we can go into our vote. We'll leave that to the end. So, yeah, let me go ahead and find it. So, candidates, of course, I think we all have the same ones or similar names. Well, for the YouTube poll, candidates were, of course, Dimitri Bivol, defeated the pound-for-pound king, and then defeated Zurdo Ramirez, an undefeated fighter, both at 175. Great performances for both fights. Of course, Jesse Bam Rodriguez defeated Carlos Cuadras. Sorong Visay and Israel Gonzalez fought 3 times, which is, you can say, rare for a champion, right? We don't see that very often. I wrote Devin Haney defeated George Kambosos twice in Australia, but people weren't happy with that pick. Some people in the comments were criticizing that candidate. So,
Yeah.
not sure that others voted. He only got 6% on this poll, so I would have to check the other ones. But you got to give him credit, undisputed champion, right? Even though Kambosos isn't necessarily that top dog opponent. You can say like Usyk, who defeated Anthony Joshua, right?
Right.
Heavyweight champion in his own right. Of course, his belts were taken, but Alexander Usyk defeated Joshua once again after that hiatus of the Ukraine war, decided to make a comeback, quote unquote, start training and defeated Joshua. You can say, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but I think everyone was in agreement that he defeated Anthony Joshua, even though it was a somewhat close fight. But yeah, let's not forget Naoya Inoue, right? Undisputed champion, stopped Nonito Donaire, stopped Paul Butler. But yeah, I see a trend here. Wasn't surprised by what most people were voting for. But let's get into the polls first, Chris, before we get into our picks. All right. So Fighter of the Year 2022 on our YouTube poll, and I can go ahead and pull it up for you guys here. 2022 Fighter of the Year. As you guys see there on your screen. We'll start with Devin Haney, who only received 6% of the votes. Alexander Usyk received 15% of the votes on fourth place. Bam Rodriguez, 17% of the votes. And Dimitri Bivol, 52% of the votes. So that one does not surprise me, Chris.
Yeah. Not surprising at all. Obviously, Bivol gained a wide recognition, being the consensus #1 pound for pound fighter in the world at the time in Canelo Alvarez. So of course his name was going to rise to the ranks. Of course people were going to, vote for him. You beat the top guy, they're going to automatically, gravitate to you. So I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree.
All right. Hold your horses. All right, because we do have another poll on Instagram. 50% of people voted Bivol. 50% voted Bam Rodriguez.
Hey.
Just to put it out there.
Ooh.
But hey, you look like you were swinging, and I kind of stopped you. I kind of intervened. I was like that ref.
You did.
I was like that ref with King Kong versus Wilder. I was like, oh, hold up. Don't hit him too hard. Don't hit him too hard. But yeah, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. Proceed.
Yeah. No. Again, I completely understand why people have him. I had him highly rated as well. He was my 1 and 2 also going into this Fighter of the Year. Again, like you mentioned, he beat two guys that are, probably the most recognizable guys at 175. And he came to the mainstream. Nobody really knew who Bivol was unless you were a boxing purist. And so he did what many people that didn't know, him. He made believers in him. So I see why he's nominated by most of the fans in our poll. But I believe somebody else did something much tougher. I think somebody decided to challenge themselves way before, in the quote unquote their time. This person could have waited a year, could have waited 2 years, could have waited for his body to get bigger and challenged some of these fighters that he beat this year. He could have waited for them to get a little bit older, but no, he wanted to challenge, and he did it in an amazing fashion. He didn't just knock down some guys; he knocked out the other. And we knock on some guys for not fighting enough. He decided to fight a third time, even though he, in my opinion, he struggled a little bit more. I feel like that doesn't take away from the fact that he gave us a third fight. He didn't have to, and he did. So to me, in my opinion, the Fighter of the Year. And it's very close. It's very close because he's a small guy, and the recognition usually goes to the bigger guys. Has to go to Jesse Bam Rodriguez, in my opinion.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, my plan going into this was to let Chris go first because he be having some not so hot takes, right? But I'm very proud of you because we're, for the most part, on the same page. Look, it's very easy to vote for Bivol, right? that's the sexy name. That's the one that's gonna give the headlines, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are, man, you guys are fake. Let's just call it what it is, because none of you guys gave Bivol a chance against Canelo, and all of a sudden he's your fighter of the year, right? But to me, what surprises me is that, I was reading some articles. I was trying to see what these other people were, who they were voting for, right? And it's still shocking to me. It blows my mind how these people actually get paid to write, to report, to make videos or whatever. They get paid for this, right? They're paid journalists, and they still think that Bivol was an underdog in this fight. I mean, mind blown. You could tell these people had never watched Bivol fight before, right? And that's kind of sad because, like I said, they get paid for this, right? So I think that's why we don't put as much value in him beating Canelo as these other people, because we've seen Bivol before. We came up here and we said, I personally said, I don't want to speak for Chris, but I personally said, this is Canelo's toughest challenge, up there with Beterbiev. These two guys, right? All these people you guys want to talk about, David Benavidez, all these Charlos. Stop it. Don't disrespect Canelo, man. Don't disrespect Bivol. Don't disrespect Beterbiev. And that's exactly what you guys did. You disrespected Bivol before this fight, and he proved all you guys wrong. But it's not like we were shocked when we were watching it live, right? This guy's a tremendous boxer. He's a great boxer. So I know you guys are putting a lot of value in that Canelo win, and rightfully so. Pound for pound king, right? Number one in the world. But let's be honest. What Bam Rodriguez did was go up 2 weight classes, not 1, 2 weight classes, right? Bivol fought a guy who was smaller than him. Huge advantage. You guys saw what happened in the fight, right? And then he fought another guy who, to me, is just a contender at 175, right? He's never won a belt at that weight class. He's never even been close. When you compare him to the champions at 175, there's a big gap in skill and resumes, right? Between Zurdo and the Beterbievs of the world and the Bivols of the world. So I agree 100% with you, Chris. What Bam did was twice as tough, in my opinion, than what Bivol did. Even though, like I said, the great story of the year was Bivol defeating Canelo, right? 4-1 underdog, people want to say. How? Not sure, man. Don't listen to the odds. Don't listen to the bettors, because those people never watch Bivol fight. So, in reality, Bam Rodriguez goes up 2 weight classes, dominates one of the 4 kings, Carlos Cuadras. Yes, maybe not in his prime, but to go up 2 weight classes and dominate a guy like that is very tough. He didn't get knocked. Him and Israel Gonzalez didn't get knocked out just because they're tough guys, man. Some of the toughest fighters I've seen all year, because those fights should have ended in a KO. And then when you take a look at what he did to Soren Visai, obviously a veteran, obviously an older guy, but to stop him, come on, man. 2 weight classes above yours. I think it's tough to argue against that, but it's always tough when the Canelo name is involved, right? But you got to give credit where credit is due, and I think we both agree that Jesse Bam Rodriguez, what he did, 22 years old, ladies and gentlemen, 22 years old. I mean, come on. That's historic. I don't think people see it that way now, but I think later in his career, they're going to realize how big this year was for Jesse Bam Rodriguez, especially taking some of these fights on late notice. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah, like you mentioned, other names like Usyk, Inoue, Bivol, they're great names, and many do have him as their fighter of the years. But like you mentioned, I think what he did against multiple fighters that are established, and multiple fighters that have reigned for quite a while, bigger than him. It just says a lot. When I had a sit down with Virgil Ortiz, who's one of his best friends, I asked him were you at all nervous for him? And then Virgil was like, I believe in his skills. I've seen his skills, and I know he's talented. But hey, two weight divisions going up are 2 weight divisions. He's like, not many people do that. So yeah, he's like, there was that nervousness on the back of my head, because you just never know. That's someone you care about. That's someone that you see train you. That's someone you don't want to see get hurt. He's like, but after that knockdown against others, he's like, I knew he had it. So again, going up is no easy feat. There's a reason why there's these divisions and people go up, a division steadily, not just jump up two. So, again, against who he did it, 2 of the 4 kings. The other 2 are still fighting. That Bam is going to test himself. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of guys that don't have him as fighter of the year. That's just going to motivate him for next year. As for us, I can't give people that award just yet. If he does it against a veteran beef or somebody of that caliber, easy, he takes it. But for this year, Bam Rodriguez, fighter of the year.
I'm not gonna lie, I am shocked, Chris.
I know
am
you are,
shocked.
Gio.
You're making so much sense right now. You're making so much sense. Maybe it's that water. Maybe it's the water. I don't know what's in your water, but look.
Save the best takes to the last episode, bro.
Look, hey, Lee Wood. I'm gonna call you Lee Wood. I'm gonna start calling you Lee Wood. Coming out with the knockout blows in the 12th round. But look, I know when Usyk got that big victory, you put him at the forefront as one of the candidates. I think by then Bam Rodriguez had already won the 2 fights. So I think since then I was like, man, this guy's my number 1 as of now, unless someone else does something incredible, right? I think if Bivol is able to stop Zurdo, it's like, okay, man, now you're making a case. You're beating an undefeated fighter, even though relatively untested, you can say Zurdo, right? Made his name for the most part at 168, but he's a big dude. If you would have stopped that guy, we would have been debating for 10, 15, 20 minutes. But you made a lot of sense, and I am very happy. I came in here thinking, look, I'm going to make the strongest case possible for Bam Rodriguez. But at the end of the day, of course, the fans, the supporters voted for Bivol. And I honestly thought you were going to go with Bivol, too. I thought you were going to go with Bivol. So, man, I am shocked, pleasantly surprised, and I'm very happy that others think that Bam should be the fighter of the year as well, because I'm not sure if we're going to see that again in the next 3, 4, 5 years. A guy going up 2 weight classes, taking out 2 of the 4 kings in that division, and then even giving us a 3rd fight, a brawl, an exciting fight. I mean, come on. If that was any other fighter with a quote-unquote bigger name, he would be hands down fighter of the year.
Yeah, and of course, when people hears of these awards, that's going to motivate them to make that fight. So that's what we want. We want the fans to get the best fights out there. And so, man, we got to motivate these guys, It's great number 2, in my opinion, fighter of the year for people.
Oh, man. Sorry if I went on a rant there, but I got passionate about that one because, man, a lot of people, if Canelo's involved, if Tyson Fury's involved, if one of these other guys is involved, it's like, bam, we're writing about these guys. We're talking about these guys. But, man, give credit where credit is due. And Jesse Bam Rodriguez deserves that. Shout out to his brother, El Profesor Franco. He's actually fighting tomorrow night on the 31st. He's trying to unify one of the belts. So we'll see if Bam remains in that division. From what I hear, he's going to go back down. But, man, I'm excited to see what's next for 22-year-old Bam Rodriguez representing San Antonio, Texas. Cool dude, man. I had the pleasure of meeting him. Very quiet. Just like you see him on camera. It's very quiet. Very reserved. And he always looks focused, man. So big shout out to Jesse Bam Rodriguez, man. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite fighters. Always a pleasure to watch.
And that's the thing, Gio, that you mentioned some of these reporters, some of them that have the biggest mics, the biggest pens, the biggest platforms. I'm sure Jesse feels like he is the fighter of the year. I feel like he thinks he did, more than anybody else out there. But of course, he's going to read the articles. He's going to read the awards, all going to be ball. And, and I feel like that can motivate him too. It's going to make him want to reach for more. And that's something very important in this boxing game. You can't stay stagnant or stay, just happy grabbing a title. You got to stay hungry. Because once you win it, everybody's gunning for you. So, even though he may not get these awards by many of the other platforms, I feel like this is going to motivate him to to be even greater than what I feel he's already a very special fighter.
100%. So there you guys have it. Quick review if you're just joining us or you're just tuning in or watching the replay. Quick recap. Fighter of the year, we're giving it to Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Fighter of the year 2022. Defeated Israel Gonzalez. Defeated Cesar Soron. Defeated Carlos Cuadras. And guess what? He just did it 2 weight classes above his. No big deal, right, Chris? No big deal to a lot of these writers. But yeah, Jesse Bam Rodriguez Franco, fighter of the year. Trainer of the year, we went with Derek James, of course. Notable fighters: Errol Spence Jr., Jermell Charlo, undisputed champion at 154. Fight of the year, we went with Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. Close one. We had to debate that one. Very close one.
We had to make extra rounds for that one.
Definitely. Overtime. But KO of the year, of course, Lee Wood against Mickey Conlan in front of his home crowd. Lee Wood pulled it off in the 12th round after being down on all 3 cards, retained his belt. And he might, they're saying it's a possibility. Venato's looking for an opponent out there. He just won the belt. Shout out to Venado. I'm rocking his shirt right now. Cool dude. Right. Also got a huge victory against Josh Dirty Warrington. Right? Josh Headbutt Warrington. Josh Low Blow Warrington. All right. But Venado was not happy. He had some words to say there in the aftermath of the fight. But yeah, big things there. 126 pounds. And look, let's move on to this because we mentioned, of course, now we know it, right? He fights at 118 currently. I think his name is very relevant in our next question. Wish list for 2023, right? Naoya just conquered 118 pounds. Of course, we'd like to see him challenge himself against literally bigger, physically bigger opponents this next year because he just conquered this division, right? He did what he had to, won all the straps. So not sure if you have a list there that you put together, Chris, or off the top wish list. I came up with like 4 or 5 fights that I'd like to see in 2023, and I could show you guys a poll too as of how the supporters are voting, the supporters on YouTube, what they want to see next year.
Yeah, I got a small wish list. I try not to get myself overexcited because then I get disappointed. But I got a little short list of fights I want to see in 2023.
All right.
Did you want to start, or did you want me to go?
I'll go ahead and read the poll first. I'll read the poll here, what people are saying in these streets. All right. So some of the options given, of course, better be a Bivol, Canelo Bivol 2, Fury Usyk, Inoue Fulton. And I didn't want to throw this one in there because I promised I wasn't going to speak about this guy again. And I promised I wasn't going to speak about this fight again. But you know what? I was like, let's not do that to the supporters. And I kind of regret it now because it got 50% of the votes. Spence versus Crawford.
Yeah, that's the thing with Terrence and Crawford. They're some of the most recognizable names. They're, you throw their names, you throw Canelo, not just the boxing first, but the casuals will want to grab to that. And so,
yeah, as you guys see it there on your poll, 23% better Bivol, 19% Canelo Bivol 2, only 4% for Fury Usyk, shocking, and only 4% as well for Inoue Fulton. And like we stated, half of the voters still want to see Spence versus Crawford.
Yeah, that's disappointing. And I know we don't want to keep too much time on Spence and Crawford because the more attention we give to them, it comes down to boycotting them for them to finally do it. But I'll talk very, very briefly on that. I think 3 years ago I said, that was on the wish list. And 3 years ago I said, I don't see them being a Mayweather Pacquiao. I don't see them, waiting, stalling, they grew up in that era of, I don't want to be like them in that sense, where I wait too long to make these fights and alienate a lot of the fans. So 3 years ago, I said, I don't believe they're going to wait this long. And I told myself, if it does happen, I'm gonna be one of the ones that just, boycotts it, and that's it. So to me, if this fight does not happen, I predicted it would happen this year. It almost did. It didn't. If it doesn't happen next year, people should really stop caring about it, because they will no longer be in their prime. They will no longer be as competitive as it once was. When you see Mayweather Pacquiao, that was not a competitive fight. They waited too dang long. And so if it doesn't get made by, I want to say, the first 6 months of next year, don't expect to see, anything close to their primes, in my opinion. And again, the boxing sport will survive. We got to move on, and we got to support the ones that do want to fight. So with that, that's all I got to say about that. The next 6 months, if it doesn't happen, I don't see myself getting excited for it.
100%. I think they already waited too long, honestly. So, like I said, I'm done talking about that fight. But, yeah, those are the fights that you guys would like to see. Chris, you can go ahead, wish list 2023. Santa Claus already came by about a week ago, but hey, we can still put our list out there if he's listening.
All right. You want to do one? Let's do top three. You do one, I do one, and
let's do it
until we get to the third.
Let's do it. You go first.
All right, number one, of course, I think this is the one that most boxing purists know has to happen. It pins two of the most, in my opinion, dominant figures in boxing. And it's none other than two Russians, man. Dmitry against Artur Beterbiev. I think this fight just has two unstoppable forces. One in Beterbiev that just crushes through every single opponent, 100% knockout ratio, against a very disciplined boxer, puncher, tough as nails guy in Bebo. Then again, it's a very close fight. I think this is the fight of a year candidate, and it can. I don't want to say one fight reignites boxing, but this is a fight that will, have everybody's attention for sure.
1,000%. Shout out to B checking in. He says, Josh, back of the head, Warrington. You know what it is. And then he also says people should stop caring now. Talking about that Crawford-Spence fight. We agree 100%. But yeah, like you said, Chris, I think that fight, I thought you were going to go with another fight, but that fight to me has a lot at stake, right? I think the winner of that Bivol Beterbiev becomes the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. That's just my opinion. I think it's close between another fight, if they do happen to fight. But that's what I wrote down on my notes when I was making this wish list. Winner, undisputed champion, number one pound for pound in the world, better be a Bivol. Those two styles, power puncher against a boxer, right? Always intriguing. But to me, another fight that I would like to see, and maybe a lot of people don't because of how the first fight went, but to me, Canelo versus Bivol is the highest level boxing that you can watch today, right? To me, if you talk about pure boxing, these guys facing each other is probably the highest level boxing that you can see, right? Because they're so close in weight class. Canelo usually, didn't have to fight great, right? A lot of times, I don't want to say he got bailed out by his power, but a lot of times I feel like he knew he could rely on his power, like against guys like Billy Joe Saunders, right? Let him take a couple rounds, get confident, get a little reckless, and then I go in and bang, finish him off. Obviously, I don't think he can do that with Bivol, as we saw in the first fight. So if they do fight again, I think it's going to be a tremendous chess match, right? Kind of like Canelo Triple G2 was. It was more of a chess match. But I think these two guys, skill-wise, is the highest level boxing that we can get in any weight class, really. And there's another close one to me. There's another close one, but there's another guy who I'm sure you're gonna mention has such an advantage size wise over anyone in his division. Crazy enough, but to me, highest level boxing fight: Canelo Bivol #2.
Rule number 2. Okay. And you said any weight division, correct?
Any weight division. I don't think there's any other two guys who are that good that can possibly face each other.
Yeah. Okay. That one is also on my list. The only asterisk I have is it has to be at 168. I just think 175 is a little too big for Canelo, and people just knows how to fill that division up. I
agree.
think to have it very competitive, I think people has to drain himself a little bit. He had the advantage in the last fight. I think at 168, very competitive fight. And if Bivol does fight him at 168 and beats him convincingly, man, it can only further his legacy, in my opinion.
100%. You want to move on to your other pick, Chris?
Ooh, my other pick.
Wish
And
list.
I know it's I don't know if this one can be made, but this one has all the makings of two guys, you know, that are on the comeback trail. Both guys are heavyweights. Both guys once held a heavyweight title. They no longer have it. When you think of heavyweights, you think of Usyk and you think of Tyson Fury, and you don't think of these guys anymore. In a sense, I mean, they still have their fan bases in a sense, but they need a big fight to get them back in that title contention. So for me, the wish list is Deontay Wilder taking on Anthony Joshua.
Wow.
I think that fight ends in knockout. I think either one of those guys can finish the other off. I think it's one of those fights that just it will be a classic in my opinion. So that's on my wish list. Does it happen? I don't know. If it happens, I'd be very shocked and I'd be very happy.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this fight became more relevant when they both lost, right? Crazy how boxing works. But yeah, that's if that happens, that's probably top 2 biggest fights of the year. I don't know if anyone else can beat it. Maybe Fury Usyk. Maybe, right?
Sure.
And
is that on the list? I mean, that's on my list, but I kind of wanted to give you that ball.
Hey, that's the one I was alluding to earlier. You know, these guys have that case as well, just like better be if Bivol winner gets pound for pound #1. Of course, we know what Usyk does. Of course, we know what Tyson Fury does. There still is a big gap in size difference, my opinion, just like you mentioned with Bivol and Canelo. I think in this one as well. But we're talking about high-level boxing. It's right here. Obviously, these guys aren't going to throw as many punches as a Canelo, as a Bivol, as a better Biv. But if you talk about two guys with high IQ in that ring, you got to mention Tyson Fury. You got to mention Alexander Usyk. And it would be for all the belts. So, of course, that's got to be a given. Yeah,
no, I was just going to say if Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua are Europa League, that one you just mentioned is the Champions League. And that one's also on my list. It's such an intriguing fight. I know a lot of people do favor Fury just because of that size, and he does have a very awkward style. But man, you cannot count out Usyk. I mean, it's something special about these guys that go up, divisions and are able to, just grab these titles and beat these guys convincingly. And Usyk is a special fighter in that sense. He's got in front of him a tall order, no pun intended. But this one is. I don't think Fury can underestimate an Usyk, and I think Joshua did it in the first fight, and he tried to convince himself that he can hang with this guy, but that skill level is on a different par. So, man, that's on the wish list, and I want to believe this can happen, man. I want to believe these are honorable guys, and that we'll get in the ring this year.
Chris, does that make Fury Joshua the World Cup?
Fury Joshua.
Using a football reference.
Joshua? Fury? Oh, my goodness.
Using a football reference. R.I.P. King Filet. Just throwing that in there.
Rest in peace, King. Rest in peace, King. Man, yeah. Joshua needs something big to get back into people's imaginations, man. But yeah, do you have any wish lists? We can probably move on to one of the fun questions of the night.
All right, I'm gonna add 2 more. I'm gonna add Inoue against Fulton. Fulton, okay. They're saying might have a rematch with Figueroa. I'm not mad if Inoue gets the winner. The size difference is going to be very very visible in that fight, evident, right? So let's see if Inoue can do the same against bigger guys. And look, he's so good, he has to go on that Lomachenko trail, go up in weight classes to challenge himself. You know, that's what the greats do. That's what Canelo did, right? That's what Pacquiao did. You know, you go up in weight classes and see how far you can go up there. Roy Jones Jr., countless number of fighters. So, yeah, Inoue, Fulton, or Figueroa, whoever wins, any of the champions at 122. And I'm going to say this one, which probably no one except very few people have in mind at the moment. I heard someone mention these two names in the same sentence, right, in a video. Eli Sekbak video, shout out to him. Robert Garcia, he was asked, who in your camp right now beats George Kambosos, or who can challenge George Kambosos, or something along those lines. As he said, I have someone who, fuck that, whoops him. And he said Ray Murataya. So I'm just throwing that out there. I think it's a fight that can be made, and I think Murataya has a big chance of winning that fight against Kambosos. That would be great to see.
Ooh, that's one of those fights
fantasy,
like
fantasy
really know the other
matchups.
guy. Say again?
I'd say fantasy matchups as of now.
Yeah, that's one of those fights where it would be a coming out party for Raymond. Again, not many people are aware of his skill set, or they see his fight, they're like, okay, he's good, but then they tune out. And I think this is one of those fights that can show what he's got. And it's just Raymond just waiting for an opportunity, and when it comes, I think he's gonna show out that he's at this level with these guys. So yeah, we can't wait to see a great 2023 for him. For me, my next I have two more. I have two wish lists, but it's not really a fight, or it's not really a specific fight. It's just it's movement within boxing. One of my wish lists is to see any of these mentioned names, mix it up with one of another. It doesn't matter who fights who. I just want them to mix it up finally. And this is the lightweight division, and this is Tank, Ryan, Loma, or Devin Haney, or Isaac Cruz. And I don't care who fights who. I just want them to fight each other and get two fights out of those 5 names. Anybody of those names fighting each other would be great. That's one wish list. Second,
hey, let me pause you real quick, because somehow Chris will find a way to throw Cruz's name in the podcast. Somehow, some way. I was surprised he wasn't nominated, Chris.
He wasn't nominated. Hey, I like his style, man. I like his style. I wouldn't say he's like elite, but he can give any guy trouble. He's a throwback to a Maidana type, where obviously, remember, Maidana, not the most technically gifted, but he was so awkward and he had such power that he can catch you. And obviously, Adrian Broner knows all about that. But yeah, man, anybody of those names fighting each other, finally, I would be happy with. Even if it's just 2 fights out of those 5 names, I would be happy. Number 2 on the wish list, I want to see Virgil Ortiz Jr. fight against any former or current welterweight champ.
Agree.
I know people are throwing Boots Ennis' name, and that's a great fight of two guys that are on the come up in that welterweight division, but that one doesn't get me too excited. It hasn't marinated enough. I feel like Ennis hasn't built a big enough name for himself yet. He's very talented, but he hasn't entered the subconscious. So for me, Virgil Ortiz against any former welterweight, whether it's a Danny Garcia, whether it's Keith Thurman, any of those guys, or any guy that has a belt right now in that 147 division, I will be happy with. So, yeah, man, I think that's movement that needs to happen in boxing, for boxing to get excited, to get us excited once again.
I agree 100%. Rumor is Tank and Ryan is happening, right?
The rumor has it.
Right, that's what they're saying. I saw the reports that Tank got arrested and this and that. I'm not going to get into it. I don't really know much about it, but
this is an award show, not a court show.
Gossip show, court show. they got confused, right? We're talking about boxing judges, not court judges.
I mean, I guess this is a good segue, Gio. I mean, into my next question, man, and the next award, in a sense.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, and this could be off the dome. We don't have to spend too much time in it, but who is your disappointing fighter of the year?
Oh, hands down. I got a list. Oh my God.
Oh,
I even wrote it down.
got a whole list.
Thankfully, this is the last show of the year, so this year I don't have to mention this guy's name again. But of course, Terrence Crawford refused to fight any top fighters once again, right? Um, even fought guys that busted gloves and all that stuff, but we're not going to get into that. Once again, Terrence refused to challenge himself, right? Disappointed in Big Charlo as well. Refused to challenge himself. Tank Davis, I think, and Ryan Garcia, when we speak about the big names at 135, to me, they didn't challenge themselves this year. But my biggest disappointment of the year has to be a guy that a lot of people like to mention his name among the other great champions. I think it's disrespectful at the moment. Great fighter. Love his style. I think he's a cool dude. We've met him. But to me, it has to be David Benavidez. Fought one time this year. And guess who that one?
Somebody else we met.
Guess who that one opponent was this year? Do you remember? Chris?
Only fought once? Ooh, man. And see, that's how bad it is. I can't even remember.
Exactly. I'm sure most people won't. And the people who do remember. I'm sorry?
Was it the other David?
It was.
Damn.
David Lemieux. He fought David Lemieux this year, and that was his only fight. So, as you see, David Lemieux, not very active in the last year, struggled to make weight, fainted a couple times trying to make 160, moved up, wasn't really active. At this point, you can call him a gatekeeper if you want, but to me, he's just like a retired boxer who just wanted a check. But joke of a fight, in my opinion, and it's very disappointing for David Benavidez, who I think is supposed to be entering his prime, and he's just wasting his time, really. I hope that fight with Caleb Plant does happen, because he's desperately needs a big name, a big fight, David Benavidez. If not, fight 2, 3, 4 times a year, man. You're young.
Yeah, dang, I thought you were talking about somebody else, but hey, I'm not mad at you. That's a great point.
Should we mention them or no?
Say that again?
Should we mention that someone else or no? I'm not sure who you're talking about, but we don't have to mention their name.
I'll tell you my pick, what I thought you were mentioning, and it's actually my pick.
Okay, let's go.
Again, you had great names. You obviously had Terrence Crawford. You had Big Charlo. You had
Ryan, Tank.
And Ryan, you had Tank. They all make that list.
One fight a year, these guys. One fight a year.
And one fight a year. I'll even add you another name that I think has very upside. Jaime Munguia. But I had to give this award, this disappointing fighter of the year.
Wow.
And it's somebody that I thought you were going to say, somebody that you've met, somebody that you love his style. I love his style. He's a great fighter, in my opinion.
Oh, man, I'm scared now.
He has such a big upside, too, and it's just, I might give this one away, but outside distractions are derailing him. But
I still don't know who it is, I'll be honest.
I'm going to have to give it to Teofimo Lopez.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. He did have a couple of fights today, but nothing impressive, not a recognizable name.
Pedro Campa, Sandro Martin, those were his 2 fights, from what I remember. Yeah. Wow.
I get this one kind of challenges himself with Sandro Martin, but I don't know. It's just it's almost like he's lost that spark a little bit. Again, he was on a big come up, a big rise, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like he's falling off a little bit, and he's got to. I feel like it's more mental than everything, and again, he has everything, that's why he says, like, he calls himself the takeover. He does have everything to take over the sport. He just has to, will himself mentally and refocus. And I think one of the hardest things that he has to do, and I don't think he'll do it, is, I know this is very tough, but I do not think his father is the right person in that corner anymore. I think he needs a different kind of guidance. And to me, it's just the fallback from where he was at, his rapid ascent. It's just disappointing to me. But yeah, to me, that's my award, and a lot of people will disagree with me, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and I can see why you thought I was going to mention Teofimo, because just thinking about it, everything I said, I think applies to him. You know, he gets mentioned among the great champions. People expect a lot. People expect the big fights. But this year, I think I'm not disappointed by his opponents because, you know, he's testing the waters at 140, kind of a comeback fight,
Yeah.
a lot of personal stuff going on in his life, his kid, his wife or ex-wife, I don't know what it is. But just a lot of stuff. And, you know, I'm not disappointed at the names he fought. I'm disappointed at how those fights kind of turned out, right? Of course, he didn't impress against Sandro Martin. Against Campa, it was good. He got the KO, but it wasn't great, you know. So if it does feel like he kind of he didn't progress this year. You know, he kind of got caught stuck there. It feels like the next year is going to be a lot of the same. Him trying to find out, you know, how much he can do at 140 and kind of testing the waters. I mean, testing the waters for a lot of guys is 1 or 2 fights, right? Usyk did it in the heavyweight division and then stepped up. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Teofimo. Obviously, 140. Obviously, the guys who are at 135 for him, I think, are still interesting names, right? The Ryans, the Haneys, the Tanks. But yeah, I didn't even think about Teofimo, honestly, but that's a good pick.
Yeah. Was there somebody that you were thinking I was talking about? Or?
No, I really had no idea. Once you said Munguia, I'm like, there it is. But then you hit me with Teofimo. I was like, damn.
That's the guy.
This guy threw 2 haymakers, not 1.
No, I think Munguia and Benavidez are in that same boat. I think Benavidez obviously a little bit more talented than Munguia, but Munguia has improved and he's still not testing himself as he should. Hopefully they realize they got to step it up before they start losing, you know, the fans' respect, the fans' support. Yeah, man, these are 2 guys that have a built-in fan base already. They got to please them, man. The money's there. The chance to build your name, your legacy is there. You just got to take the challenge.
Yeah,
yeah.
Shout out,
yeah.
Shout out to B who says he says Murataya whoops Ryan. Woo! Ryan Garcia. And then I mentioned how Murataya is like 4-0 against Ryan in amateurs. And he says it's about to be 5-0. But yeah, I think that's an interesting category, Chris. I think last year we kind of mentioned, you know, obviously prospect of the year, but also who you should look out for next year. So I don't know if you want to answer those kind of together. I don't know if you have any names. I think I have a few names for prospect of the year. I can't remember who I gave it to last year. Of course, the Sayas name is always going to be there. The Pacheco name is always going to be there. I think I threw Murataya in there. And all these guys have under 17, 18 fights. So technically they are still prospects, you can say. I'm not sure if you have anyone outside of these 3 as far as like prospect of
the year. Hey, I'm gonna be a little bit biased, but I'm gonna throw our boy Action Silva in there. Still very young kid. Got his big shot on a big platform, big network. People were able to see what he can do. He was fighting a common opponent of Ryan Garcia. Garcia took a couple more rounds in action. Obviously, not near the same fighter that he was at the time he fought Ryan, but still very impressive. I think Ashton showed up on a big stage, showed his speed, showed his talent, showed his power. And like I said, a little bit biased. I'm gonna allow that. To me, Ashton Silva for connecting with Jake Paul, for, you know, making different moves in boxing, not going with what people do, go with that promoter that everybody recognizes him, kind of trailblazing a little bit. For me, he's a prospect of the year.
Okay. So to me, that would be I would put him in my category of must watch for 2023, right? Ashton Silva. But to me,
Yeah.
I think it was very tight because Xander was kind of um, becoming that headliner little by little. Pacheco too, stepping up in competition. I think Pacheco fought 4 times. Um, but to me, I'm gonna have a little bit of bias as well. 16-0, 13 KOs. Raymond Murataya fought 3 times this year. And I can just name his opponents: Jeremy Hill, 16-2. Jair Valtierra, 16-1. And then Miguel Contreras, the caveman, who was 12-1. Got two KOs and 1 unanimous decision. So to me, it would be Raymond. And I think, he's 16-0. So he's still fairly young in his career. And I think next year is going to be huge. But he's must-watch TV. Tio Pacheco's must-watch TV.
Yeah.
Sander Zayas must-watch TV. Ashton Silva must-watch TV. And then you could throw names like Keyshawn Davis and, many, many other guys, young talent. You might even have to throw Emiliano Vargas in there. Must-watch TV. 2-0. He just signed with Top Rank. Son of El Feroz, Fernando Vargas. So, really good names there. Really good list, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people wait till these guys are established, to hop on the bandwagon. Man, this is where these guys are learning. This is a good time to get on board and support them, and just see them grow. No one's built overnight, and so man, when you're along for the ride, that's where these fighters really appreciate that support and that love. So, I can't wait to see where these guys grow, where they go. Boxing is it's not an easy sport, man, and for them to do this and to take this endeavor, it speaks all volumes of them.
And then
with this one, Gio,
hold up, and then let me add 2 names. Must watch TV for next year, of course. Our guy Kid Kansas, Alan Garcia, who fought on the undercard of Crawford, and must watch TV. We gotta support women's boxing. Yocasta Valles, who continues to make noise, and I saw her on lists as an honorable mention for Fighter of the Year for women. So must watch TV as well.
That's right. Yeah, man. And with that, man, I gotta bring in this category, Gio. I know we talked a little bit about the disappointments of 2022. I want to ask you, who, in your opinion, is the comeback fighter of the year? Who is the one guy that maybe took a loss or went into inactivity or went into obscurity and who's had some kind of ascent, in your opinion? If you'd like me to start, let me know. If you want to think about it, just off the dome.
All right, so I'm going to go off the dome because I didn't really prepare anyone for this, and I'm going to go first because I want to be surprised by your pick. But just off the top, I think this guy, after his loss last year, the way he lost, he was stopped, talked a lot. I think the fight that he took wasn't one that was going to make noise, wasn't one that was going to put him up there again, make headlines. But now it seems like he has a big fight lined up for 2023. To me, kind of shocking result, but I'm going to say Caleb Plant. I mean, look, Anthony Durrell wasn't a fighter that if you beat that name, Anthony Durrell, it's not a guy who's going to put you back up there in the rankings, back on the headlines. He made it happen. He got a tremendous KO, right? And I think that's the only thing he could have done to kind of get his name back in there among the top dogs at 168. And like I said, he has a fight lined up. That's what they say, against David Benavidez. So, man, I was impressed by that. I'm like, man, this guy got stopped by Canelo. People stopped caring about him. And then he made people start saying his name again. So off the top, I would say Caleb Plant with that big KO.
Nice. Hey, and I respect that because I think for a time that you were like, man, this guy's not on Canelo's level. He talks so much.
He's not. Don't get it twisted. He's still not.
He's still not.
But yeah, I can give credit. I can give credit where.
All right. I respect that. All right, for me, this is a fighter that was in high regard in his late 20s. obviously continued fighting, continued winning, but I feel like he kind of fell. I don't want to say he fell off the top 10 in his division, but I mean, when he lost these belts in a very close fight to your boy Josh Taylor, I feel like a lot of people just felt like, oh, just Josh Taylor's the man. Everybody else just has to wait in line, and I feel like he kind of had to go to the back of the line in a sense. So for me, the comeback fighter of the year has to be Regis Progrerius.
Ooh, okay.
It has to be Rougarou. Not just because of who he fought, but how he finished him off. Tron Cepeda is no slouch. He is, one of those guys that's knocking on those titles. He's the guy that, gave Jose Ramirez hell, and many thought he won that fight. So in a sense, he is an uncrowned champion, and Regis Progrerius definitely impressed me. Just his work rate, his jab, his hunger. Again, when you lose a fight like that against a Josh Taylor, sometimes you could go into obscurity. You don't get those same chances. Those doors close. Those promoters no longer want to work with you. So for him to dig back and get back and, do the hard work and put on a performance against a Tron Cepeda that works with our guys, it's a very impressive, man. You cannot take anything away from Rougarou. Comeback fighter of the year, in my opinion.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick right there. And he got paid, man. He got his money. Right?
That's right.
He got his money. So, yeah, that's good one.
No big problems. But he finally got his, what was it? Was it $1 million?
I think it was $1 million or $2 million. I forget what it was. 1.5, 2 million. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a large sum.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great pick because I even wrote him off. I was honest. Right after that victory, I was like, dude, I thought that was it. He struggled to make weight in one of his fights. He was kind of fighting above 140. We didn't know if he was just going to move up or stay at 140, and then tremendous stoppage win against a top opponent. Yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah, that's right. By default, do we give Marv Nations a comeback promotions company of the year?
Hey, it took about 24 hours, so I would say so.
Hey, shout out to Rougarou. Regis Progrerius, man. He's one of those guys that I'm excited to see what he does in 2023, man. Very impressive.
1,000%. Do you have any other categories, Chris? Not sure I do. Let's look on my notes. Go ahead.
I say two more or one more before we rate the boxing year out.
All right.
This one has to be, I know we have fight of the year, but in your opinion, what was the event of the year? What was the fight or event or, the coming together of eyes into boxing
All right.
For you this year? What was the one that, that was the one that we would pay money for? That's the one that we cannot miss. Which one was it?
So besides Jake Paul, right? Besides Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. And so, yeah.
All right. So to me, and we kind of spoke about this, right? You didn't agree with me at first, right? When I said this is the event of the year. However, I'm going to say at the end of the day, Anthony Joshua stole the show. Usyk Joshua. Was it Saudi Arabia? Mm-hmm. Or was it? Well, I believe it was Saudi Arabia, but
somewhere there is. Yeah.
At the end of the day, to me the fight wasn't all that great. The undercard wasn't all that great, but I think that was the event that got the most people talking and made the most buzz. And like we stated, like the whole Anthony Joshua thing, him grabbing the mic at the end, a lot of people complain about that. A lot of people criticize them. But I kind of took it as, look, at the end of the day, people are talking about it. All eyes are on boxing. Who doesn't enjoy a little bit of WWE, right? Whether he made a mistake or not, I'm not judging that. I'm just judging this based on this. To me, this created the most buzz out of any event. And it wasn't Canelo's fault that he dominated that fight against Triple G, right? That was supposed to be the event of the year. But I think AJ stole the show. Not going to lie.
Hey, okay.
You might have been right all along, Chris.
Just to give context, when we talked about which were the events to see, I think the boxing purists then be was just waiting for this Joshua Usyk fight. Again, it's not the Canelos, it's not the the big names, but to me it was just that purity of boxing and just a lot of there's a lot of backstory with Joshua and Usyk having to do it again. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit, and I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I'm gonna say that first Canelo Bivol, man, that one was pretty exciting. That one was pretty exciting to just to wait upon, and of course we know in a sense that Bivol's no slouch, but you always feel like Canelo's gonna find a way. So to me, I think that one's the one. Of course, everybody knows Canelo. All the casuals will tune in when he fights again. If he rematches Bivol, whether at 168 or 175, I think that's the one that puts the most eyes. And you've said why. We know why. But yeah, man. Hey, as long as we have Canelo in his prime, and as long as he's focused and hungry, hey, I think he could turn it around. So, can he do it at 175? I don't think so. Can he do it at 168? I think so. So, to me, Bivol, Canelo, even though it didn't draw the biggest numbers, but that was to me a mixture of the purity and the casualty of boxing.
Yeah, and using my own criteria, I think that event, of course, got the whole world talking, not just the boxing world, right? But to me, that's why I kind of want to watch the second one, because I think it would be a massive event. It'll probably be the number one event of next year if it happens again. Of course, people can debate whether Canelo can do it at 75 or if it has to be at 68 or if it has to be a catch weight. But I think that event could have been a lot bigger, and I blame the people who are involved in boxing for it not being as big as it should have been.
Yeah.
Right, because no one was hyping this fight up as it should have been hyped. Like I stated, I believe Bivol was 4-1 underdog. Everyone was writing him off. I don't think I know a single person who said Bivol was going to win. Obviously outside of his camp and outside of Russian people. Not one person that I remember that said Bivol was going to win. So I blame those people for not making that the event that it should have been. But yeah, that's a good one right there.
Yeah. No, and again, yeah, man. If they run it back, when they run it back, people are gonna know who he is. People are gonna put respect on him. I almost feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I almost feel like when Canelo lost, the Mexican fan base frolicked over to Zurdo, and then when Zurdo did worse than Canelo, they came right back. You know what? Canelo didn't do so bad, man. We just gotta get him at 168, man.
You know how it goes, man. Hey, just like in the World Cup. Hey, just like in the World Cup, man. Mexicans hated Messi for 2 days, and then after, I didn't know I had that many Mexican Argentinian friends. All right, they were all rooting for Messi in the final. You know how it goes, man.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, man. All right, man. Let's get into it here. Let's wrap this up. Award show.
Let's do it.
I gotta ask you, man. How did you rate this year? A, B, C. You could go pluses or minuses, man. How do you rate this year? Were you satisfied? Were you disappointed for the most part? Where you at?
All right, so 2021 to me was a very good year. I think I gave it a B+ or an A-, if I remember correctly. That was just right after, quote unquote, after the pandemic, right, where things started opening up and we were getting live events again. So we're all happy, jolly. We're like, yes, boxing is back, how it should be. So, I was very lenient with that grading. Now this year, I think it was another good year. All right, just to name some fights that we got this year. You can't complain too much, right? Usyk, Joshua 2, Canelo, Bivol, Spence, Ugas, Beterbiev, Smith Jr., Stevenson, Valdez, Estrada, Gonzalez 3. We saw Tyson Fury twice this year. And then we saw Naoya Inoue become undisputed champion. So if you just named those names, the big names, you're like, man, this was a terrific year. However, I think it's the guys that I mentioned earlier that kind of ruined it for me, because Look, these guys for the most part had already been fighting big names, right? Canelo had already
Yeah.
been challenging himself. Spence had been challenging himself. Beterbiev was running through his division. Usyk and
Yeah.
Joshua, they ran it back, right? Can't have any complaints about them. Fury, okay, didn't face the biggest of names, but he was flirting with retirement. We were kind of just happy to see him back. He was filling out stadiums. Like you can't complain, right? Now, oh yeah, running through his division. Chocolatito, Gallo for the third time. These guys do what they do, right? But it's the other guys, right? The Ryan Garcias, the Gervonta Davis, the David Benavides, the Charlo, Big Charlo, and of course the other guy that I promise I won't name again who refuses to challenge himself. I think those guys kind of canceled it out for me. I think it was a great year by the fights we got, judging by the fights we got. But there were also many other fights that we didn't get. And in large part, these guys are to blame for. So I'm gonna go with a B minus, man. B minus. Maybe I'm being harsh,
Okay.
but B
No,
minus
no.
for me.
Okay, no, I completely agree. I think we were very lenient the year before, and it almost feels like we got to be a little bit tougher, man. Like you said, this is the year where, you know, it almost feels like we're out of COVID. Like there's, everything's
No
open back up again.
excuses. No excuses, right?
No excuses.
No
Like
more
last year,
COVID. Yeah.
it started up again. Like that's when almost the blueprints are out there. This one we should have, gone. I want to say close to 90% of the fights we won, 85%, and I feel like
and look,
we got
Chris,
we got a good number. We got a good number.
Look, Chris, not to interrupt you, but I only named about 7 fights. Can we get one a month at least? One a month? Come on, 7 fights? Come on, give us one a month.
Yeah. And like I mentioned,
I agree with him. See, he agrees with me as well.
They're mad too. They're mad too that we're not getting the fights. So yeah, it's the big names. It's the big names that we're not, the names that they can cross over to superstardom that we still haven't gotten yet. We have established stars like the Canelos, the Usyks, those guys, and we're just waiting for the next batch of guys, and we know who their names are. And once we get those, I feel like I can give them a bigger rating. But based on the fights we got, a solid B for me.
All right.
Solid B again. I can't be too mad. Again, I'm very happy with the fights that we did get. I gotta kind of see the glass, half full and not half empty. So pretty good fights. Can't be mad. Again, we're getting tired of the ones that were promised for years. We're not gonna pay them no mind, man. We're gonna be happy with the ones that are fighting. And so these are why these guys will be remembered as legends. Why will be remembered, for putting the fights that we want and for challenging themselves. And at the forefront, we see Bam Rodriguez, like you said, a 21, 22-year-old, already doing crazy things that many fighters wait till they hit their prime at 25, 26. Tank Davis, is it 29? Still hasn't fought a notable name. Come on, man. And so again, I'm gonna be happy for the guys that are putting in that work, man, for the fans.
Yeah, 100%. The names that I mentioned, the guys who are fighting each other, those guys are stars. They're stars for a reason. It's the other guys trying to get there that need to get themselves there, right? Like Big Hop said, they work for you. You don't work for them. So it's time to step up. Time to demand these fights and give the people what they want, right? But yeah, I think it was a great show. I think for the most part we're on the same page. Thank you guys for joining us on that live chat. Thank you guys for your input. Thank you guys for your votes, for helping us decide some of these awards, right? For some of them, you guys made it a little tougher for us. But no, thank you guys just for the whole year, for rocking with us, for watching the show, whether it's live or on replay. We appreciate the positivity, the positive comments, the feedback, the thumbs up, the likes, the subscribers. I believe we're at around 5,000. I think that was the goal for the year. So almost got it there. I think there were some slow months, right, that kind of slowed us down. But I can't complain. I think it's been a great year for us, for the show. pretty good year for boxing. And yeah, it's always fun to do these recaps, man. They're very fun. So thank you to all of you guys who watched us, who listened to the show, who shared it maybe with your friends, who bought a T-shirt, who put the stickers on your water bottles or on your computers and all that stuff. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and again, we appreciate the connections we make with you guys here on the live chat. You guys are like brothers to us, man. You guys keep us freaking laughing throughout the show, man. And once again, shout out to all the connections we've made just being involved with boxing, and shout out to Leonard Lopez, man. Champ. He can look in the mirror and say, "You're a champ, man. You went overseas. You fought, away from home in your opponent's backyard, tougher than expected fight, and you still came home a champ." So, man, shout out to Leonard Lopez, man. We're gonna try to get that interview. I don't know if you have one with them, man. You could get another one with them as a champ, man. So we'll try to put that together. I know we're also gonna visit the RGBA, right, Gio? You want to mention a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a show coming up soon. Raymond Murataya is supposed to fight soon. We're in the works putting that together, whether it's at the RGBA Robert Garcia gym or once again at the backyard gym of the Murataya brothers, the world famous, right? Backyard gym of the Muratayas. Our guy, Gabriel Murataya is also fighting. He's going to be fighting on the same card as Neno Rodriguez. And that's an RGBA promotions card. So, yeah, we're going to interview all three of them. Hopefully we can make it happen on the same day. It's in the works. And I think that's one of the goals for next year, just getting out there again, just like pre-pandemic, right, where we're going to different places, different gyms, and doing these interviews. So that's one of the goals. So stay tuned, man. It's only going to keep growing. So thank you guys for being here since the beginning. And it's just starting, man. It's just starting. We're going to keep that ball rolling. And, yeah, looking forward to a lot more fights, a lot more content in 2023.
Yes, for me, man, just thanks, guys, for being a part of the show, man, from day one, from day 50. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep working hard. And
even if
even
if you just joined us today, man, shout out to the first-time listeners.
Yeah. And once again, man, we're going to keep working hard, man, because this is a sport we love. There's something special about boxing, man. It's, again, not everybody can do it. Not everybody can do it, and there's people there, just putting their lives on the line for the sake of changing their families' lives and to entertain us. And so we appreciate you guys following the sport and supporting it. And man, again, yeah, thank you for the time you guys put into this sport.
Yeah, man, we're the #1 podcast for a reason, man. Look, I didn't get this belt for free. I didn't get this belt. I had to pay for it, man. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys, man. Wish you guys a happy New Year, happy holidays, stay safe. Yeah, man, very, very good show. I hope you guys liked our picks. Very good debates. Appreciate you guys participating, voting up on that YouTube community tab, and stay tuned because that's where a lot of our updates go on that YouTube community tab. So if you're not tuned in, I know some of you guys don't have Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and all that stuff. So yeah, man, stay tuned on YouTube and appreciate you guys, mates.
Peace.
That's it, mates. Thank you guys. Shout out to Joshua Franco fighting tomorrow. Make sure to catch it. Till this day.
Bam. Shout out to Lee Wood.
Lee Wood, man. Let's go, Mike. See you next year. Let's go, Mike.
Michael, you already know I'm a fun guy.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco Gallo Estrada. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Against the Ropes. Huge huge shout out to Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview, and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time on y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.